Mike Johnson is the leader of the Republicans in Congress. They signed Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act in July. One thing the bill did was cut funding for healthcare, specifically $900 billion for Medicaid over the next decade. Estimates vary, but this could cause around 8 million Americans to lose health insurance coverage by 2034, with people being affected as early as 2026. Exact impacts are hard to say because states will likely attempt to fill in where the federal government is cutting. Democrats in Congress are currently refusing to fund the government unless the healthcare funding is returned. Republicans say that the Democrats just want to give
healthcare to illegal aliens.
This is mathematically impossible. $900 billion over 10 years would only match the claim if nearly every single undocumented immigrant was enrolled in Medicaid and receiving benefits at the same rate as an average American citizen. It is true that some undocumented immigrants can receive non-emergency Medicaid in 14 of the 50 states, but the funding for that coverage comes from within those states and is therefore not relevant to the federal funding. One way an undocumented immigrant can receive federal healthcare funding is exceptional life-saving care. A hospital cannot turn you away if you are about to bleed out and die, even if you are undocumented. This is because of the radical left president, Ronald Reagan, who passed the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act. Treatment required by this law does not come close to the $900 billion Republicans have cut. So how much money do undocumented immigrants cost the federal government? In 2023, $3.8 billion was spent on emergency life-saving care for non-citizen immigrants. I was unable to determine what percentage of these immigrants are legal residents or what percentage of the funding came from the federal government. But even rounding the $3.8 billion up, assuming all the non-citizen immigrants are undocumented, and assuming all the funds came from the federal government, that would leave us with $5 billion per year. For reference, it's estimated that in 2022, undocumented immigrants paid almost $20 billion in federal taxes. Over 10 years, this cost would total $50 billion. 50 is less than 900, meaning Americans would still be getting their healthcare cut by $850 billion. Critically though, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act does not get rid of the Reagan-era policy, so that math was pointless. Illegal immigrants will still be receiving life-saving care, and Americans will be getting their health insurance cut by $900 billion. Another way an undocumented immigrant could receive federal healthcare funding is fraud, where an undocumented immigrant somehow obtains the documents of an American citizen that is eligible for Medicaid and receives healthcare coverage as them. This second scenario could not be solved by Congress passing a bill. It would be an administrative issue, not a legislative one. If I'm stealing money from the government, you can't make a law saying it's illegal to steal money from the government. It's already illegal. Although it's rare, some undocumented immigrants have been prosecuted for this. There was one in Boston in 2019. He spent 3 years in prison and had to pay $16,000 back to the government. This shutdown is effectively a sequel to the one that happened in 2013, when Republicans refused to fund the government unless the Affordable Care Act was rolled back. They eventually gave up until 2025, when they had a majority and could do it with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. To be clear, there are legitimate and serious issues with the Affordable Care Act and healthcare in this country that should be addressed, but cutting $900 billion does not address them. In short, Republicans do not like funding healthcare for American citizens, but they don't want to argue on those grounds. So right now, they are lying and claiming that their cuts will only affect undocumented immigrants.